Hey, it's Corey Potter from Fuel Your Photos, and today we're going to be reviewing SheboyganPhotographer.com, which I haven't looked at yet, and I'm getting ready to load right now. So, in these reviews, I like to ask a few questions right off the bat. Just going to get a quick first impression here. And the first question is, what is the website about? So on my screen, I can see that it's Weddings by Jax, and then Jax Photography. And then I think this says Weddings by Jax Photography, maybe LLC, and then something here that I can't read. So just right off the bat, one of the impressions that I get here is that this logo needs to be either simplified for the header and remove this white background and have a different color version that fits in a black header, or change this to a white header, or something like that. And you need to remove the things that can't be read, because this isn't helping me. Jax Photography, so at least I have an idea that it's about photography. And then when I see Weddings by Jax, I assume this is a site about wedding photography. Now, if I didn't see the photography up here, I might wonder, well, is this a wedding planning site, or something else that has to do with weddings, wedding dress site? Assuming that I don't know why I landed here, potentially, it might be a little confusing. Now, most people are going to know what they clicked on, so hopefully they would know that it's a wedding photography site. So what service is offered and where? Okay, so again, wedding photography seems to be the service being offered here on the site, but right off the bat, the only thing I know is potentially it's in Sheboygan, which I'm not sure exactly where that is, but I guess if I'm in Sheboygan, then I would know that I'm in the right place. But then maybe there's multiple cities named Sheboygan, so I'm not sure. Without looking here into the title, which most users are not going to look up here, they may have looked at the URL when they clicked it, if they clicked it somewhere where they could see the URL and not like some type of anchor text. So on the home page, this big home with a lot of space over it here could tell me a little bit more. So I would rather see this welcome to Weddings by Jax and photography, Jax Photography up here, and then even put where I've probably been Sheboygan Wedding Photographer 2001. I think this might mean since 2001, and then put that up here underneath this before you get to the photos. The other bonus in that is that the text is going to load almost instantly, whereas the photos might take a little bit longer. Now, see that you're on Imagely here. You have the favicon is still set here, so that's another little recommendation. Go ahead and set a custom favicon. You could even potentially set it to one of these O's. You can just Google favicon generator, and you'll be able to generate a favicon and then upload it to the root of your server. I think probably in Imagely there'll be a way to do that. There's probably a tutorial. If not, I'm sure you can get in touch with Scott or someone in the support, and they will help you with that, no problem. So your site should be pretty fast, being on Imagely, but still having text near the top is a guarantee that as soon as it loads, you'll at least have something that'll tell people they're in the right place. So I'd recommend moving that main thing up here. You don't need something that says home on the home page. That has very little, if any, value to people visiting or to search engines. So let's go ahead and go to the next question. What's the first thing I want to do on the site, and what do I expect to happen when I do that? Now, when I land here, the first thing I did it as soon as it started, just instinctively, was scroll down. And I wanted to get more information. So there's some more information here, which I can read this, and it has some links inside the text as I read that will allow me to go to those particular parts of the site, which I do like that you have kind of in-text navigation here on the home page. That's very helpful. Plus, the navigation is very clear here at the top for me. Over here, this text is very crowded, and it feels like it's yelling at me. I understand using caps and headings like this is a design trend, and it looks good. I use it in my sites as well. But whenever it's a paragraph like this, it's like, especially when it ends in an exclamation, it feels like it's yelling. So it's crowded. The button gets cut off here, so there's some tweaking you could do to make this text a little bit easier. I would make this Get Your Free Guide the way that it is, and then this other text needs to be the same as this text right here, and then you need to work on your button styling. But yeah, the first thing I wanted to do was scroll down, and I did get more information. After that, though, the next thing I would want to do is probably go ahead and go to. I don't think this call to action really entices me, especially because of the formatting. Because it's kind of off, I didn't even pay attention to it. I guess if I were a client, I might be interested in looking at this investment page. I like that you have that very clear right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and say that I expect it to bring up some pricing information, which is something that I might be very interested in if I'm thinking about hiring you. All right, so you get to that, and we have each of your packages, which include, and it tells you some things that it includes, and that your packages start at $14.50, and your most popular package is $21.95. So yes, I do get the things that I expected to find here. This is definitely good enough to satisfy my curiosity for how much things cost. So take a look for yourself. I'm not sure if I would use that as the anchor text here as much as something like, hey, go see my reviews, or something that people can know exactly what they're clicking on. Contact me today and we'll set up a quick phone call. So this is good. I like that you have this here, but I would also potentially put some kind of button or image or something down here that really makes it clear. The next thing you want them to do when they get to the bottom is click on the contact button, or to go to the reviews, whichever is the most important call to action for you. So at this point, I might want to get to know a little bit more about you as a photographer, as a person. So let's go check out the About page. Got a good headshot here. I think it's important to have a picture of yourself on your About page, so you've done that. Have about your business, about you. These columns, to me, are a little bit tough to really read and digest. I'm not a big fan of this 3-column layout. I'm not going to say it's bad, but just personally, I'm not a big fan. I'd rather have like a paragraph and then another heading and then another paragraph. That's a personal preference of mine. Now, something that I've noticed across all these pages is that here in the footer you have this headshot but nothing else. And so I would say, if you're going to put this here, maybe put a little bio here, or a review from a client, or a link to reviews, or a link to the contact, or something like that, just so that you have something here besides just this image. The other thing is, once I get to the bottom on some of these pages, I do have this in-text navigation, but I don't have any other. I can go back up to the top, and since it's sticky, I wouldn't worry too much about having navigation at the bottom. But you have to remember that the goal of any page of your site is to get people to take action, a specific action. And so if your About page has a goal, what would that be? It's probably going to be to take them to let's see, right to this menu report. I'm not sure what this takes you to. Let's see. It's like something that, a blog post. See, that's probably not the main goal of the About page. The main goal of the About page is making people confident in hiring you. So your next step is probably going to be to contact you, or potentially look at some images, which I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So I've gotten to know you. I learned about pricing, which was right off the bat. I had to qualify that I'm going to be able to afford this. Then I went to About You to kind of learn something about you, and then I'm going to see some of your images. Now, I can say right off the bat that this layout, and I'm assuming this is not intentional, but the way that it's laid out right now has very low impact because they're tiny little images. I'm assuming this is supposed to be maybe masonry grid or something like that, or maybe they're supposed to be full width. But this page is fully loaded. Let's refresh it one time, see if anything changes. Doesn't look like it. So again, Imagely is really great about supporting their customers. So if you got in touch and said, hey, my gallery here is not working right, what do I need to do? What settings do I need to change? They will be able to help you with that right off the bat. And I'm assuming you're probably using NextGen here, and so since they're experts on that, I would definitely get in touch with Imagely and say, hey, my gallery's not showing up, or at least I had Corey do a review, and on his computer the gallery wasn't working. So if it's working on yours, I am using Chrome on PC if they ask. see here. Okay, so you have this kind of call to action at the beginning of the gallery, which is fine, but I would probably want that at the end as well, and it looks like you do have it here, so that's good. So since they're so small, the next thing I want to do is click on one and see if it opens up and lets me flip through. All right, now see, this opens up to the attachment page. Well, not technically, it opens up to the actual image. And so because of that, I have no navigation here, and I have to go back. And then I'd have to open up another image, and then I have to go back. So I can't even open these up and flip through them, so my only option really here is to scroll through and look at the small images. And at this point, I would probably give up on trying to look at the images other than just kind of getting a general idea of what they look like. Okay, so let's look at one more thing here on the contact page. All right, so I do love that you have the address here. This is so important. I personally would put that in your footer. Since you're willing to display it, I would put your phone number and your address. Whichever phone number you list in your Google My Business account, I would put that one in the footer with your address. It's not 100% necessary. It's on your contact page. Google will be able to find it. Just personally, I believe that putting it there makes it easier for people to find. Also makes it easier, make sure that Google can crawl it at any time, and verifies that you are at the address you say you're at. So one thing here is that this form is really tiny. So I like that you have all this information from the perspective of like, hey, that's helpful to filter people, but at the same time, you need to know that pretty much every study on conversions ever has said that the less friction, the more likely people are to convert. In other words, the fewer form fields that they have to fill out, the more likely they are to fill it out. If I look at this right now, I'm like, I have to do all this just to contact them to ask if they're available for my wedding date. I don't know how interested I am in having you shoot my wedding. I don't even know you yet. Like, I understand the question and I see it all the time, but I'm just saying, as a client, I'm thinking, I don't know if I really feel like filling out all this. I just want to know if you're available. And so at that point, maybe I would text you or something. I like that you have that there. But if you want people to fill out this form, personally, I would make it really short and easy. And I would just have name, email address, wedding date, message. That's pretty much all you need. At that point, you can decide whether you want to get back with them or like what kind of message you want to send them back. And you don't necessarily need all this. You can follow up with this later. Okay, so let's go back to the homepage one more time. Do a couple other little things here before we go to the mobile version. Just want to again mention that I don't know exactly where you're located. Sheboygan, again, if you're there, I guess that makes sense. I would potentially add the state in here somewhere as well. Let's see, let's go ahead and look at the SEO on page here on desktop. We'll just open up the Moz bar. Hang on one sec. Okay, just wanted to sign in there. I'm using my free account, not the premium account here. Okay, so Sheboygan Wedding Photographer by Jax Photography. I'm wondering if this really is the name of the business by Jax Photography. I can't remember exactly how it's listed. Weddings by Jax. You have it kind of a couple of different ways there, so I maybe come up with a consistent way of naming and listing your business. And I would put that first. I know that a lot of people will say put your keyword first in all of your page titles, but for your home page, I recommend that your brand be first, and so it would be like Weddings by Jax Photography. I don't necessarily think you have to put the LLC in there and say Sheboygan Wedding Photographer. Meta description, this has your title repeated, so in search engines, it's going to be like looking at the same thing twice. I don't necessarily think I would repeat it almost the exact same way like that. Maybe just kind of change a little bit. Serving Sheboygan since 1999. This is helpful in showing that you have been doing this for a long time, but Right now, this is starting to feel really repetitive. You know, you're just saying the same thing over and over and over. So I would work on the meta description. Keep in mind, the meta description is not a direct ranking factor in Google. It is a factor in the fact that it will help people click, and more clicks where people find what they're looking for is potentially a factor. Click-through rate in SERPs is definitely something that Google pays attention to. And so I'm just noticing this up here. It's kind of interesting. I'll have to ask Scott about that. So anyway, make this something that people really want to click. Why are you telling them that you've been around since 1999? So say something like Sheboygan's most trusted photographer since 1999, or whatever it is. Like, you know, tell them, hey, we've done 500 weddings, so we get you. You don't have to say those exact words, but what is the actual benefit that you're saying? Not the feature, but the benefit. You can put that into the meta description, I believe. All right, so H1 is home. Again, we've already talked about that. You could definitely capitalize on that. H2s are fine. Alt text looks like you have alt text on both of these, and you are using some keywords there, so that's fine. You know, it'd be nice if you had a few more images on the homepage potentially with some alt text, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to get into that too much. Body copy, again, you have a good amount of text on your homepage with good semantic keywords. You know, just using photography and wedding and professional and things like that in the text are going to be fine. Again, maybe proofread this. I haven't read the whole thing, but wedding photographer 2001, I think that's supposed to say since. And then alt text, we already talked about that. So the last thing here is speed. Let's go ahead and look and see what Moz is giving us, 3.9 seconds. So let's look at the page speed insights on that. And then we're going to go ahead and close this and look here on mobile. Well, I'm going to actually not look. You got right click disabled. There we go. I'm going to do the imitation here in Chrome. Okay, so on mobile, kind of answer some of the same questions here. You know, what's the first thing I want to do? Well, again, I'm not loving how this logo looks here in this black with just a white square. I think you really need to work on getting your logo, because if that's your first impression, to me this just feels jumbled and not well put together. That's my first impression of it. So I think improving the appearance of the logo and the header is going to be something that's important, especially here on mobile. I'm assuming, I can't see this, I'm assuming this might be like a SumoMe or something. I have to look in that on desktop and see. There's a lot of space here between the header and the home. I think you could pull that up a little bit, but I can see an image, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and start scrolling down. Okay, there's a couple images. It gives me an idea where I am. And then again, I can read this. I feel like the text is fine here. It's a little bit better than it was on desktop, but still needs some help, especially on this first one. The button's still messed up. And I wouldn't put this in all caps. Recent projects. All right, this is almost impossible to read. There's only one here. I can't. I'm assuming maybe on mobile I would be able to swipe through here, but it's not letting me on here. I need to figure out. I need to turn that on and make sure that's turned on. I can't remember where it is though. I have to look at that later. But yeah, make sure that this is at least swipeable. If it's recent projects, I'm expecting to see more than one project here. Again, same issue with the headshot. I love that you have it. But let's put some text here to give it context. And then we'll look at the gallery here just to see how that looks on mobile. A little bit better since we're on mobile, but still not taking up the full screen like I would hope. There's also not like a back to top showing up here, so I have to kind of swipe a lot to get up and down on this. And let's go back to the home page. I want to see what happens when I click on your free guide thing. Okay, so notice on mobile, or at least on this simulation of mobile, it looks like this is potentially an image, and I can barely read this. So check this on an actual phone or device and see if this is any better, because right now, the way that I'm looking at it on this Chrome simulator, it's almost impossible to read that. And if I got to that, and this was the only thing I saw on my screen, I may give up before scrolling down to see that I can read this here and get my guide. This looks like a ConvertKit form, which I love ConvertKit, so good job picking that, if that is what you're using. And then there's no navigation back, which is pretty typical of landing pages, trying to get them to take that action there. So I'm not going to, I mean, personally, I don't love the UX there, but it is pretty standard. So, all right. That's pretty much everything I have to say there. Let's see what your insight said. 57 and 78. So not too bad on desktop. Server response time. Not exactly sure what's going on there. Again, something you could ask Imagely about. They could probably tell you if there's anything you can do to optimize that. Same thing with render blocking JavaScript. It's one of those things where in WordPress, this is going to be, I'm assuming this is using Genesis. It's pretty well optimized, and I'm not too concerned about that. The server response time is something to ask about. So you might want to email them and ask about if there's any way that you could improve that. Now, 1.1 seconds is pretty good. I mean, for a photography site. Well, actually not for response time. I was thinking about first load, but yeah, that's something you might want to ask, because I know they have really solid servers over there, and so they can potentially tell you if there's something you can optimize to make that better. I'm not an expert on that yet, but something that I'm working on learning. For now, you can ask your host. And then optimize images. It's consider fixing. You're only going to get 16% reduction, so you're already doing a pretty good job on that. The real big deal here is just the server response time. And yeah, so that's looking good. If you have more questions, I think you're already in the Facebook group, so feel free to come over there and ask follow-up questions. Sometimes I'll miss the comments on YouTube, or at least I have in the past. I'm trying to keep up with that more, so you can also leave a comment there and I'll try to reply. So if anyone else is watching this and wants your website reviewed, all you need to do is go to fuelyourphotos.com/reviews and fill out the form there. Give me your website. I'll put you on my list. I think right now I have about 15 people on the list, and I'm trying to do one of these every day. So about 2 weeks behind right now on getting one done. So go ahead and do that quickly before that gets even more filled up. I have about 60 people in the group who had asked about it before, and I'm going to try to get them all on that list. So at some point soon, I'll probably have about a 2-month waiting period. So go ahead and get your name on that list. Also, just go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, because these reviews will be dropping here on YouTube in the future. Okay, so before I go, I just want to note here that for some reason this is actually putting me on the subdomain. Let's close this. Refresh. Okay, for some reason this is actually displaying the server address here instead of your domain. That's definitely something that you want to ask Imagely about, assuming that you're still there. Now, you can potentially have this logo and not be there anymore. I assume you are, because of the theme and the favicon. I haven't even checked anything else, but let's just see if we take this back off. Okay, so it loads there, and if I click on, I don't know how I got onto that, but it came up and it was stuck there. So it's something to ask about, and making sure that there's a redirect in place to make sure anytime someone lands on that they will come back to your main domain, or at least that domain masking is in place to show that in the URL bar. You want to ask about the best way to handle that as far as the server setup goes. All right, just one last note there. Sorry. Again, if you need a review, go to fuelyourphotos.com/review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and always come on over to the Fuel Your Photos Facebook group for more SEO and website discussions. See y'all next time.